begin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this evening's Town of Amherst Traffic Safety Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. First order of business is just introductions of who we are. I am Eric Froz, Chairman. We'll go around the room.
Greg Dion, Vice Chair.
Maxwell Kahn, member.
Dan Ryder.
Jennifer McNevich, member.
And then we have liaisons from town departments.
Captain Charles Persons, town members, police department.
Scott Marshall, principal planner, planning firm. Bill Prentice from the building department.
Chris Schregel from the engineering department, traffic safety coordinator.
And I'm Councilman Zucala, liaison to the board.
So for those that are here this evening, just so you are aware, this is ordinarily a 10-member board. We currently only have 8 members appointed by the town board. In order for us to hold a meeting, we have to have 5 members, which we do have this evening. In order for us to have a quorum, we have to have 6 members. So means we are able to host a meeting this evening. We're able to go through your concerns, any actions that we have that require information being passed along to the different department liaisons that are here this evening for their departments to act on. That can take place. Any action that would require town board action, there are certain things within the agenda that if it's a stop sign, if it's no parking restrictions, anything, that requires town board action. Before that can be passed by this board, we need that quorum of 6 people to pass that resolution to then forward it along to the town board. So we'll go through that this evening with you. If there is any action that requires voting by this board, that item will then have to be held until our next meeting, which would be in April, for us to actually vote on that agenda item to then pass it to the town board. So if there are any voting items, we will let you know on that. Our first order of business for this evening, actually before we go any further, just need to cover emergency. Should an alarm sound in the building, the exits are to my left, your right, out those doors over that side there, and then you can exit to the front or rear of the building. And they would just ask that if the alarm is going off that you do not use the elevator. So our first order of business is to just review the minutes from the February meeting. We are not able to vote to approve these, but if there are any corrections or changes, we can put them into the motion now so we can just vote on them at the next meeting. Any changes from any members? Going once. Okay, so we have no changes to the minutes, so that will just be a quick vote in the April meeting to approve those. Moving on to the evening's agenda tonight, just a few ground rules before the meeting. This meeting is not a law-making authority. We kind of already covered that. The board members are volunteers appointed by the town board. The liaisons are here to support and advise the board for the respective departments. Should this board make recommendations that required legal actions, the motion would be moved on. Should the motion pass, council member Zucala will take that motion before the town board for the further action on that item. As we close an agenda item, we'll provide you with more information regarding the next steps. In order to address the concerns of those in the room, we do not go through the agenda items in order. We will go through the items based on the order that you signed in, and then after that, we will go through the order of the agenda. Once we review all the new and old business items, we will then move on to site plans. So is there anyone here for site plans this evening? Okay. As we work through the agenda, we'll first go through background information here for the board. We'll then open it up to public comment. We'll close the public comment period, and then we will in turn have conversation here as the board. During that public comment period for you, there's no need for you to repeat any of the information you already stated. You have 3 minutes when you come up. Once you hit about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, Greg here will give you a ring on his bell, or he'll let you know that you have about 30 seconds remaining, and then at the 3-minute mark, he'll ring the bell another time. Once all the residents have had their opportunity to speak, the public comment period will close. We will then open up the public comment period. We will then open up our conversation on that item. During that time, we are not able to, we may ask you questions if we need more information on that agenda item. However, the public comment period will be closed, so you asking us questions back is ordinarily not permitted. So if you have any questions while you have your public speaking time of those 3 minutes, please ask those questions. We'll take some notes of them and we'll try to answer those questions while we have our conversation up here. Just a few topics that will come up during the board meeting this evening while you are speaking. Just so everyone is aware, this board is required to follow the manual on uniform traffic control devices, also known as the MUTCD. We will refer to that at times while we are in our conversations. This is a document issued by the federal government, along with the New York State supplement. The document provides uniformity and consistency, allowing road users to know what to expect. This board will not make recommendations, we're not allowed to, that do not align with the MUTCD. So that's the rules and parameters that are out there for all the street signs that you see on the road. There are rules behind those as to when and where you can post those. Also, so you know, if there's speed concerns, the town of Amherst speed limit is 30 miles per hour. There are spots in the village where it's permitted to be 25 miles per hour. The town of Amherst has not taken any action at this point that allows the speed limits to be reduced below 25 miles per hour except in school speed limits. So we can't make a recommendation to go below 30 miles per hour at this time. If there is a recommendation to do that, that would have to go before the town board to take legal action to allow that to happen. Also, so everyone is aware, stop signs are traffic control devices. They are not speed control devices. Everybody is always asking for stop signs as a means to slow down traffic. That is not permitted by the MUTCD. They are a traffic control device. If you have any other information that you want to hear on that topic, we just advise you to Google unwarranted stop signs, do a Google search on it, and you'll have all kinds of articles, studies that show why you do not use stop signs for traffic calming measures, that they are a traffic control device, not a speed device. And then finally, speed humps, speed bumps, and tables are not currently used in the town of Amherst. This board is in favor. There are other departments that are opposed to them. They delay emergency response. There's snow plowing issues. There is consideration from the town to consider installing them, but before we can make that recommendation, there would again be required actions to be taken by the town board before we could use those in our arsenal of traffic calming devices. So with that, we will open it up to item number 1.
Do you want to go over the minutes?
We did, and there were no changes.
Oh, I missed that. Thank you.
We didn't vote on them, so you missed that.
Got it.
So with that, our first item on the agenda this evening is item number 1, which is also signed in for, which is related to North Forest and West Klein Road. Request for pedestrian don't walk device across the east leg. With that, I'll turn it over to Chris for more background information on this item.
Thank you, Chairman. Supervisor Culpa received an email from Lynn Boxer in reference to the intersection of North Forest and West Klein. Specifically, she called attention to this intersection as it relates to pedestrian safety. There are several congregants that are walking through this intersection to attend the nearby synagogue. With that, her suggestions are threefold. She is asking that don't walk devices, that's the ped heads, are installed on the northeast and southeast corners in order to cross Klein. Additionally, she's asking for the pavement striping to be repainted. I would assume she's talking about the crosswalk itself, perhaps the stop bars. And then thirdly, lastly, that police department enforce the yield to pedestrian signage that is currently present there. On the screen is the intersection itself. It is a T intersection. It is signalized. It is a town of Amherst signal. We are responsible for signal timing as well as the pavement striping of that intersection. How that signal operates is there is currently a traffic camera that is doing detection of all the movements at all approaches. Furthermore, there is a left turn arrow going in the southbound direction. And please note there's a designated right turn and left turn lanes going in that westbound direction or the east leg. Prior to this meeting, we did do some pedestrian counts utilizing the traffic signal. That is in your package. At that time the package went out, we only had video, so what you saw was only 4 pedestrians as counted on a Saturday between 9 and 11 a.m. As discussed with the resident, they thought that that would be a good time frame to select. After that package was distributed to you, we gathered additional counts from the MyoVision cameras. We set up a detection zone to count pedestrians specifically at that leg. The results are on your screen. Please keep in mind Saturday is the holy day where you'd expect the most amount of foot traffic. So we did the last week. So starting this Tuesday, keep in mind the temperatures were pretty warm that day. We had 8, then on Monday 7, 6, 13 on that holy day, 5, 6, and then 2 on a Wednesday for an average of about 6.7 pedestrians per day crossing on that leg that is pointed out in the request. Beyond that, we did look at crashes. There were a good number of vehicular crashes. I think there was 14 on record over the past 3 years. There were none related to cyclists or pedestrians. And we did, I think, provide a turning movement count to show, how many vehicles are going through that intersection. That approach, you can see a total of about 8,000 vehicles per day going in and out of that leg. And Chairman, I do have past minutes on this as well when we get to that point. So with that, I'll turn it over back to the board.
Okay, with that, we'll open it up to public comment. And Linda Boxer was the first person signed in.
Thank you for hearing our concerns. We appreciate it. As was shown, the crosswalk is visible in that picture, but it is no longer that visible. It has been, it's faded, it's been paved over. It is scary to cross that intersection. Janet Gunner and I walked down there last Thursday, and we don't know if that left turn is going to stop to allow us to be in the intersection. The cars are turning right on red. The other cars are turning right on red. Everyone is moving quickly. It is a scary intersection, and we hope that you'll take that into consideration. The count that you just did is a regular week. During our holiday seasons, during the high holidays, the numbers are far greater because we have a lot of people who walk in the neighborhood. It's a walking neighborhood. And Saturday is our Sabbath, and yes, that's probably pretty normal, but during Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach, Passover, we will have far more people walking. And we have our clergy who walk that way, who have young children, and they're very scared. Our cantorial intern's youngest child has been hit almost twice. She's little, and her mom is telling her, hang on to the stroller, but cars are turning. The holidays will be a big issue for us, and it's not just a Temple Bet Tzedek issue, although I called it to attention. There are other synagogues in the neighborhood. We are not far from the walking path, and people in the neighborhood will walk to the walking path through this intersection. So I hope that you will prevent an accident, some kind of a tragedy from happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Gunner.
Thank you very much. My name is Janet Gunner. My husband and I have been residents of Amherst for more than 40 years, and our 3 children and granddaughter are lifelong residents. I'm here to share my strong support for a pedestrian walk, don't walk device across West Klein Road at North Forest Road to help ensure the safety of pedestrians. I'm a member of Temple Bet Tzedek near this intersection. As Linda stated, our rabbi and several Bet Tzedek congregants, including children, walk to religious services on Saturdays and holidays. I am concerned for their safety for the reasons well stated by Linda. I'm also here as the mother of my 31-year-old son, Daniel, who has intellectual disability. Daniel plans to move to a property on the south side of West Klein at this location in the near future. Walking is part of Daniel's daily routine. The south side of West Klein has no sidewalk. Therefore, Daniel will need to cross West Klein to be able to walk on the north side walk to Dash's Plaza or Clearfield Library. At present, it is unsafe for anyone to cross at this intersection, even more so for children and individuals with intellectual or physical disability. Specifically, this is a very busy intersection. When pedestrians are crossing from the south side of West Klein to the north side, there is no way for the pedestrians to know whether the turning arrow for cars turning from North Forest to West Klein is green or red, and therefore safe to cross. Similarly, when crossing from the north side of West Klein to the south side, there is a steady stream of cars making right turns on red, also making it unsafe to cross. The front page article in the March 2nd Buffalo News highlights the rise of pedestrian fatalities across western New York and the nation. The article indicates that since November, at least 11 pedestrians in western New York have died after being hit by a motor vehicle, and pedestrian deaths have risen at a steady 14% rate since 2019. The Director of Communication at the Governor's Highway Safety Association stated, "These are more than numbers, these are lives. The ripple effect of grief from even just one pedestrian death are fairly incomprehensible." He continued, "The only real hope for reversing the trend involves focusing on every possible factor. Installing a pedestrian walk, don't walk device at this location should effectively address key safety factors. We are grateful for the Town of Amherst Traffic Safety Board for focusing on these important safety issues and for giving us the opportunity to work with you to identify this effective solution for the safety and well-being of all." Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have other people that are signed in on this agenda item this evening, but indicated they were not here to speak. So just confirming that nobody else that's in the audience wants to speak on this item tonight.
Do you mind if I say a few words?
You are welcome to. Are you signed in?
I am. I'm Mike Staffoff, 16.
Yep, you are welcome to. We'll just switch you from no to yes.
So as I said, my name is Mike Steckloff. I live at 60 Guilford Lane, and I am someone who is Shomer Shabbos, which means I only walk on Shabbat. And last Shabbat, I was at Temple Bet Tzedek. I was with the rabbi, and we chose to walk home in a different direction so we could avoid that intersection. We actually went down Carriage Circle, which takes us a longer way home just to avoid the intersection. So I just wanted to share that anecdotal piece of feedback with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just ask one more time, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on this item this evening? Okay, so with that, we will close the public comment period and open it up to the board. I will just run out, as Chris said, there are previous minutes on this intersection. I'm not sure, Chris, you have those minutes from, not sure which meeting it was. It was in the fall of 2023 or June.
June, yeah.
Wow. Time flies when you're having fun. So in June of 2023, we actually looked at this intersection, and there was a request, actually initiated by me because I go through this intersection at a lot of times, to install a green turning arrow on the right turn lane that would correspond and coordinate with the left turn arrow to allow that to happen. In order for that to occur, for that turning motion, for those to be in sync, that would require the installation of the ped heads for that intersection to allow it to be safe for the pedestrians to cross there while there is two arrows at the same time going. Fully understand what you're saying. For a person that's walking through that intersection that would be coming from the south going to the north, they can't see the green turning arrow of the cars that get that green turning arrow to make that left-hand turn. I know firsthand from going through that intersection myself that the cars that are making the right on the red, I'm one of them, doing that. You're going through that intersection on a regular basis, making that turn because you see that the cars have the green turning arrow, so you just start to go. Once you see those cars coming across there, you pretty much realize that you can just go as well, and you don't really look for the pedestrians. So there was a motion by this board. It passed 8-0 that you see there in the minutes. To have the highway department and the town look into consideration of installing that signal, changing the configuration of that signal, which would install the ped heads as part of that project. As of right now, that is still, to my knowledge, Chris, I don't know if highway or anyone has any additional information, if that's moved anywhere at this point.
Yeah, it's an active request by this department, by this board, there was some thought as to, this is accurate, there's some funding related to pedestrians at intersections, and at that time, it was undecided as to where to best use those funds. We still don't know exactly where those are going to be used, but I can certainly get with the highway superintendent as well as Councilmember Zucala to see if this is the best use of those funds and see if this can move forward. It would have to go through design and then ultimately construction. Al, is there anything more in terms of the span wire, if it could accommodate additional, do you know if you did any? No.
Couldn't hear you.
Okay.
So just so you can hear that, part of that signal reconfiguration, the signals that are used in the town are poles with span wires. Those wires can only support so much weight going across them based on the signal. So if you start adding additional heads on those signals, the span wire has to be able to support that weight. So Highway is saying that the wire that's there could support the weight of additional heads on the signal for that green turning arrow. But then there is the additional parts of it, which is then installing the controllers for the ped heads, the posts for the ped heads, all of that to go in, the painting that Chris has here.
And just a little more background, Dan, sorry to interrupt. This was kind of flagged as an intersection that we would like to improve with ped heads. This was a grant that we applied for, and we were unsuccessful in obtaining. It was actually, I think, I don't remember how many different locations we applied for, but we did end up getting funding at intersections, but just not this one. So it was not selected by the DOT. But just to show you that it is on our radar, and we keep trying to go for grant funds. But I think maybe it's time that the town funds will have to go towards this.
Mr. Chairman, I need a clarification. I seconded the motion on that action last summer, and I believe the only street or road under consideration was Klein. Now, if I heard right from the audience tonight, we also have a problem of cars on North Forest turning left onto Klein.
Well, the cars on North Forest turning left onto Klein have a turning arrow, have a protected turning arrow to turn on Klein. So what happens is the signal will actually, you as the pedestrian, if you are standing on the other corner, see how you have the green turning arrow?
Yep.
You on the other intersection there, you don't know that the cars have the green turning arrow. So
Right.
you see the light turn, you don't know what's going on, you start to walk, but all of a sudden the cars there get the turning arrow to go, and the pedestrians in the crosswalk while that happens.
Right, and we don't want that.
We don't want that. So that's the concern on that leg, on that movement.
There are pedestrian push buttons with walk, don't walk indicators. They will not give permission for people to cross the intersection if the left turn arrow is lit.
Is lit.
We
It will
want
all
that.
be timed correctly.
Yeah. So adding that pad head in there, if you put the pad head that you're asking for the pedestrian crossing, when the person hits that button, it would give timing in that intersection for the pedestrian to cross and would stop that turning arrow from allowing that turn movement while that's activated. So that's what we'd be looking as part of the installation of that, with those turning movements being through that intersection. As those turning movements are allowed, the pedestrian crosswalk would be controlled as part of that. So
I'd like another clarification. How much money are we looking to do this intersection? Is it 24,000 the right number?
That was not including the right arrow that you're also recommending. Now, Dan, do you catch that? There's a concurrent right arrow going westbound on Klein that would go simultaneous with the left arrow on this direction. So that 24,000 is a little outdated. I would probably guess it's more like 45.
45?
Yeah, I would.
How outdated is this thing?
Well, it didn't include the green arrow request.
Yeah, now we're doing signal modifications. We're changing out heads. But like I said,
Right.
Yeah, that's.
We
I think if you want to move this forward, then keep on that recommendation, and I'll set a meeting up with the highway and have Councilmember Zucala be involved in the decision-making.
Just one comment I have. I am in favor of what the board has collectively talked about thus far. In the meantime, would Highway be able to repaint the crosswalk and upgrade it to an LS-style crosswalk, just kind of as a short-term, to call more attention to that pedestrian crossing?
So I have a question on that actually as well, because that intersection was partially repaved, right? I'm trying to remember as I went through all of this, because the county actually partially repaved intersections on North Forest. However, they never finished their painting after they did that. However, I don't believe, if my memory is correct, when they did the milling there, I don't think they went as far to the east to take out the crosswalk. So I'm not sure, I'm just bringing that up because I'm not sure if that's still on the county's radar as part of finishing that project. That was a late paving project last year to repaint, if that would include that crosswalk, or if that's on the town to do.
Al, do you know? Yeah.
I think I saw
Normally, if the county does a disturbance, they have to redo the crosswalk, right?
Yeah, but I don't think they went far enough to the east to disturb the crosswalk. I think they're like right along the crosswalk line of
see.
where they milled to.
So in which case, that would be our responsibility. But I don't know of any future work.
And to clarify, it still looks like this, right? It's still an S-style crosswalk? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, nothing's been painted. That's pretty accurate, but it's more.
Yeah. I think,
run down.
in my opinion, upgrading it in the meantime, if Highway could at some point this summer or spring get to it, I think that would be beneficial personally.
I agree. There's no justification not to make it as safe as, that's an easy lift.
So at this point, the referral is from Greg and Max to refer it to Highway to, at a minimum, put it on the list for repainting if possible this season for 2024.
So let's just explain this to the public. So the type LS type of crosswalk is, well, there's not even one there.
Pull up your PDF.
It'd be easier just to go to Flint.
It's in your PDF, actually, Chris.
Oh, it is?
Yep, that's what you proposed.
Oh, yeah. Hold on one second. There we go.
There you go.
So the type LS is this type of crosswalk. Right now, you just have the two lines. This provides additional awareness that pedestrians are traveling within those intersections. You normally see them at state intersections, but in areas where we want to focus additional attention on pedestrians, sometimes we install this.
So Chris, we have a sixth member with us now. Helene Sanders has joined us, so we actually now can vote. Do you need a motion from us to reconsider the past minutes, or are we still good there to just refer that to everyone for further consideration?
I don't think I need a motion.
Okay. So just checking with this board, all in favor of continuing as we initially requested in June for the signal reconfiguration and pedestrian crossing safety at that intersection. This board still in favor? Yes. Okay, so this board's still in favor of the recommendation that we gave in June and are asking the town for further consideration of that project. In the meantime, we're referring it over to Highway to, at a minimum, with their painting projects for the summer of 2024, to consider repainting this intersection with a type LS crosswalk through that intersection until additional work can be done with signal reconfiguration.
So Linda, would you be the person I would continue conversations with? Sure. Okay.
So we will close this item for now, and we thank you for bringing this to our attention. And we appreciate the support in what we've already done to help with pushing that project along with more voices towards it. So with that, I'm just going to take a break in our motion minutes here before we move to the next agenda item, and I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go back to the minutes that we could not vote on. Just going to ask Helene, who has joined us, did you have any changes or comments to make to the minutes from the February meeting? Is your mic on?
I don't know if this is appropriate, but I may have to not bring this up, but bring this up in old business. I kept that picture in my head of the, where you're gonna put in the, like, kind of islands and that intersection.
Yep.
And in my head, that one crosswalk that, like, goes to the woman's driveway, it seems so, wrong, part of it should be repaved, part of the street should be repaved, so that part of it can be on the street.
Okay.
I don't
That's
know
something-
if, I
yes,
don't
that's
know if you
something
can go back.
We can bring back up in old business of tonight's agenda, so that's not in the minutes, right? So we're just gonna, at this point, review the minutes for approval of the minutes, and then if you want to bring that up in the old business, we can go back there.
Okay.
Okay. So is there any additional comments, changes, or anything to the minutes from the February meeting? I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Yes.
So motion by me, second by Max. Any further comments? None being heard. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried to pass the minutes 6-0. Cool. Okay, so with that, we will move to the next person signed in, which is for agenda item number 2. So even though we don't go in the order of the agenda, tonight we're actually going to do that. Item number 2, where did my agenda go? Item number 2 is Lamarck Drive, request for additional speed signs, radar feedback signs, and speed humps between Kensington and Worley Drive. Chris, on to you.
So thank you. This request came from Edward, who resides at 276 Lamarck Drive. He has asked this board to consider some changes on Lamarck, specifically the section between Kensington and Worley Drive. He's asking that additional speed limit signs be placed beyond what is there now. Currently, there are speed limit signs coming off of Kensington as well as Worley. He's looking for something about 50 feet or so from the entrances to Lamarck. Oh no, he says there are 2 now. He's looking for some additional ones beyond those, probably mid-block. Furthermore, he's suggesting that a radar feedback sign be placed. He points to other ones located in the community, something that will remind the drivers to travel at the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. Lastly, he's suggesting that speed humps be placed on Lamarck Drive in this section. So as we normally do, we like to collect counts to provide you the data necessary to make recommendations. The Highway Department was kind enough to put out counts last week. It was not able to be put into your package. This was worked up today. Ed, I emailed you this today. I don't know if you got it. You got it, okay. Great. So what this is showing is in the northbound direction, this is placed mid-block, by the way, kind of in between Stanwick and Worley Drive. And let me do the overall map. So this is where the counter was placed. The average daily traffic in the northbound direction was 785 vehicles per day. The 85th percentile speed is 37 miles per hour. Again, the posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour. This is on the higher side of residential streets that we've counted in the past. In the southbound direction, you have the same 85th percentile of 37 miles per hour and a little bit more vehicles traveling per day going in that southbound direction at 807. When you look at the counts themselves, you have a total number of vehicles at 1589 with, peaks during the AM peak hour 8 to 9-ish. as well as, the PM rush hour around 5 and 6. We take a look and we try to graph all those speeds going over 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, kind of give the police department an idea of when to best place enforcement. And at the 7 o'clock and the 8 o'clock hour, it peaked to about 12 vehicles traveling over 40 miles per hour. What else do I have for you? So, also wanted to point out, there has been previous recommendations by this board to install no parking on Lamarck from Stanwick, which is this leg, to Kensington on the west side. That is currently posted as no parking anytime. The rest of it, to my knowledge, has parking available. And we also look at crashes. There was only one crash located at this intersection, and it seemed to be some sort of a medical issue, was unrelated to speeds, and that's in the past 3 years. I think that's all I have for you. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board.
Thank you, Chris. And with that, we'll open up the public comment. And Edward Chrysalis, your the floor is yours.
Well, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to address the board. And Mr. Schwagel, thank you very much for helping me get here to address the board. So I'm Edward Casalis. I lived on Lamarck Drive, 276 Lamarck Drive, since 1986. And over the years, I've noticed the whole street has become a very young, populated street with new young families coming in. And a lot of kids playing on the street now, especially with the warmer weather coming, with their street hockey, either in the street or in the driveways. I've noticed also, of course, kids are now starting to play basketball in those standalone basketball hoops. And noticed just yesterday, a young lady was playing and the ball rolled across Lamarck, and she stood there not realizing that, what do I do? So I was able to go out there and retrieve that basketball for her, because besides the runners, the walkers, the bicyclists who use Lamarck Drive, the speed on that street has increased, in my opinion, a lot. I've been homebound for 2 months with bypass surgery, so I kind of was able to observe this firsthand, because when I was employed, I leave for work at 7 in the morning, come home at 6 o'clock at night, and you just notice every now and again there were some fast cars. And that's what led me to call the supervisors. I didn't know who to contact, and he sent an email, and then Mr. Schwagel got in touch with me. We had a conversation, and he asked me to send the email with the recommendations that I made. What I thought of was 2 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs put in the middle of the street to remind people that there is a speed limit. And the second thing was to, as you have on Evans Road, when you're coming from Sheridan, it flashes if you're going over greater than 35 miles an hour, but if you're below 35 or less, it's orange. So it's kind of a reminder, oh, I'm going too fast. And then the speed bumps came to me from having gone down to where St. Casimir's Church is in South Buffalo. They have speed bumps on the streets in the city of Buffalo, and especially they put them over on Furman Boulevard near the Coast Guard, in order to cut down on the drag racing that was going on down there. So I'd hope that you would, and I know that you're, as you mentioned in your opening, about the speed bumps, and maybe the town board would consider that. Quickly, cars, we pull in and out of our driveway and at our peril sometimes. But I do want to commend, and I think you might have been involved in this, Lamarck and Kensington was really bad for some bad accidents, T-bones and turnovers. And then there was that, and I think it was called the diet was put in, and that has cut it down tremendously. And thanks to the police department, there was a cruiser last night pulled a speeder over on Kensington, which in my opinion is itself a racetrack also. So I thank you for listening to me, and I would hope that we could work together or work something out for Lamarck Drive. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this evening? None being heard or seen, we will close the public comment and open it up to the board here for discussion. So I will just let you know when it comes to the speed humps, bumps throughout the town, there wasn't a street that we looked at to install those in and do a pilot on. There were residents that were here that were in favor of installing those. Notice was then sent out to the residents on that street, and there was overwhelming opposition from the residents on that street that they did not want them. City of Buffalo has installed them in numerous locations. There's a lot of resistance to them now in the city because when the car goes over the speed bump, you get the thump thump in your house as the cars are going over them because they slow them down, but they still have speed going over them. There is concerns from the highway department with speed bumps regarding plowing over them, and there is also concerns from the police and fire departments regarding slowing emergency response using those streets. So as part of the pilot project, what this board was looking to do was establish the criteria of where they could be used, where they would be appropriate, where they wouldn't be appropriate, what the recommended traffic counts would be on an individual street if they were to be installed. The other things that you have to take into consideration is as you install the speed bumps, which if you drive through the city of Buffalo, you'll see that they don't just put them on one street, you put them on the neighboring streets as well. Because if you were to put the speed bumps onto Lamarck, most likely what's going to happen is you're just going to then push the traffic over to Huxley. Put them on Huxley, you're then going to push them over to Walton. Right, so you're just going to basically move the problem rather than address the problem. So there has to be an approach taken with the guidelines from the town board, from this board. What would be the traffic counts? How many blocks over are you going to impact by doing it? And establish all of that criteria as part of that. So that is kind of in progress at this point. There's been a change in the highway superintendent. We don't have his position on that compared to the old superintendent. So speed bumps right now, this board's in favor of them where appropriate. Don't know if your street would be appropriate for them or not. I think potentially with there being a signal at your street at Worley and the traffic counts that are there, it probably would not be an ideal candidate for speed humps on the street because the traffic counts are on the higher end. So you're really looking to use those more on streets where it's a lower traffic count with cars speeding through, trying to bypass and cut through. Yours is kind of a connector street in through the neighborhood because of that signal that's at the end. Anyone here on the board is welcome to chime in with any other comments regarding speed bumps. Other than that, I will let the board have at it with other ideas, recommendations, or thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, I drove down Lamarck from Kensington to Worley today about noontime. And I observed the parking. But once you get away from the intersection of Kensington, you can park on either side of the street. Okay, no parking restrictions. There was one car parked all the way from Kensington to Worley. And that car was on the parked in the right-hand lane. Had there been cars in parked on both sides of the road, it would have narrowed the road down and slowed speed down. And this is not my theory. This is a well-established happening with streets like this. I'd like to point out to the board and the audience the striping the state did on Main Street, both sides of Harlem. Okay, it's to stripe off the parking lanes. Okay, and it works. I never see traffic driving down the parking lane. Okay, because of those stripes. And I'm wondering why we can't stripe the parking lanes on Lamarck. And I don't care if anybody parks in them or not. It looks like they're not going to. But it's illegal to cross those lines and drive in the parking lane, okay? And I've offered this comment on many roads, and to no avail. We haven't done it yet in the town. The village is going to do it if we ever get some warm weather. Going to do it on Mill Street. I'm wondering if the town's ever going to do it, and I'll shut up.
So with that, Chris, what is the width of Lamarck? It should be 28 feet. Wondering if it's a little bit wider. Right, so the Lamarck is built to the town standard of 28 feet. So in order to take Dan's recommendation into consideration, you have to keep a minimum of a 10-foot traffic lane, Chris?
Yeah, the book says you can go down to 9, but typically you try to keep 10s. So it'd be a 10, 10, 8.
Right, and
And
the
8 is
parking lane would need to be 8. So in order
Yeah.
to move forward with that, you wouldn't be able to put parking on both sides of the street. You would have to put an off-center line down the middle of the street, most likely, and install parking on one side and restrict parking completely on the other side. That would choke down the street. That would make the road appear narrower, and potentially be a traffic calming, slowing mechanism for the street. I myself, in this particular scenario, looking at different things that have been done in the area with road diets to narrow streets, wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that as a traffic calming measure for the street.
I wouldn't be opposed to it either, but I think in that situation, because you're going to be changing the structure of the parking on one side of the road or the other, it would be the type of thing where we would need to just send something out. Maybe we can canvass because it's really the people that are residents on one side of the road that I would be concerned about having a problem with it, right?
So we have residential driveways on both sides. Chris, do you have the fire hydrant map, or can we see it from the street view? Do you know which side of the street the fire hydrants are on?
Yes, it's on the, south, it's on going away from Kensington to Worley is on the right-hand side, and it's about catty corner from my house. Because the neighbors and I go out there and clear the snow. So, catty corner.
So ordinarily, if you put a parking restriction in place, the preference is normally to put the parking restriction in place on the side of the road with the fire hydrants. Right, so if we were to do that, that is actually in this instance,
Yeah.
you'd restrict on that side and you'd put parking on the other side of the street. Would be the normal approach to take, because you'd have to have parking restricted in front of the fire hydrants as well. So if you're going to restrict it, you just restrict it on the side with the fire hydrants, permitting parking on the other side of the street. So we would look to put the parking lane on the east side of the street, parking restriction on the west side. I think it's something we'd have to have engineering probably draw up first, Chris. And then would have to send, if this board were in approval with it, have the drawing configured if it would work from a measurement standpoint, and then there would need to be notification sent to all the residents of Lamarck to see if they would be in favor of it. That would then come before this board. Again, as another agenda item after we had that information, where more residents could come and speak their mind on that particular concept design. If it had the overwhelming support of the residents, it's something that this board could recommend to the town board and the highway department to put the parking restriction in place and reconfigure and paint the street. We would probably want to have Chris engage that first with the highway department, because the first step of that would be taking actual measurements of the street to make sure that that 28 feet width is confirmed that it could fit once you put the paint on the street and get those measurements. We don't know for sure. We don't want you to go through the effort of doing that and then find out when they take the measurements, it's not something feasibly that can be done because the street's only 27 feet when they take the actual measurements. Right, so that would be the side, where you see that car park now? Yeah. That would be the side that would be parking allowed. Right, so what you'd probably have to do, you'd have to put a white line 8 feet off that curb, and then you'd probably have to put a double yellow line 10 feet over, or some kind of line marking in the middle of the road, going down the whole lane to basically show that it's an offset, off-center road. It's not something that has been done in the town, but we're always looking for ways to calm traffic, so.
Yeah, I mean, if
Dan's
it's something that
proposed it.
works.
I'm not opposed to it. Any other comments from anybody
We
else?
certainly get a lot of complaints about speeding.
Chairman, did you want to discuss the other suggestions?
Yeah, we can go through those. I'm just leaving that one out there as an option. Anything else is,
And would this need to go to the town board eventually, since you're changing parking restrictions?
if we were to do that, it would require town board action with parking restrictions. It would, I mean, the first step of it would be, first you would need going through this board. We would send out the survey, like we'd first see if it's something that can be done. We would then send out the survey to the residents to get that back, and if we see overwhelming opposition from the residents on the street, that would pretty much kill it right there. If there's overwhelming support from the residents on the street in favor of it, then we would take it further under consideration to then pass to the town board for further action. But that first step before we would go there, I would want, right now we have one resident bringing this to our attention, so we'd want to get more feedback from the residents.
Yeah, I would add that, and you mentioned it before, that you should first contact the highway department to see if they'd even entertain a project of this nature. And then if the highway superintendent would be in favor of moving forward with canvassing, then we could take that approach. But if it's a non-starter that he'd want to use resources on a residential road like this, then we'd have to shift our attention to something else.
Right. So I think that's where my intent is at this point. The rest of the board is, we first need to see if it's even feasible to be done based on the road width. And then once that is done, would then be, is the highway supportive of it to take those next actions? I don't know, Al, your thoughts from highway, if it's something there's an appetite to consider? So that's kind of where that idea would stand at this point.
Right now, the neighborhood could do a self-help experiment. It's just park some cars on both sides of the street. Well, it's allowed. The town allows parking on both sides of the street. You're not going to get a ticket for that if you stay away from the signs.
That does force the cars to slow down as they work to navigate those parked cars.
Westfield Road, which is built like a throughway. You drive down Westfield at 6, 7 o'clock at night when people are coming home from work and parking their, and there's cars parked on both sides of the street. Everybody has to slow down to a crawl, and you have to be courteous and let people through. But it works.
So the other,
Right.
yep.
I'm just suggesting to take advantage of the parking when available. Mm-hmm.
So one other, Yeah, at this point, the town of Amherst doesn't have any camera speed detection. I'm not sure if it's even legal in New York State.
It
If
is
it would take
not.
state action to do it. But in order to install cameras or a camera system, that would all be first, if it's permitted by New York State law, which I don't think it is, and then town board action as well to contract out to a company or somebody to do that. So when it comes to the other items that were suggested here, the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit signs in the mid-block, that is not normal in the town. They're normally posted on the entranceway to each individual street. So like you said, they're at each end, one at Kensington, one at Worley as you're coming in. Yeah, that's the standard within the town that's done. Chris, I don't know if you have any other comments on that as to why that is.
The thought there is that the driver had to have passed this entering into the neighborhood, so they've passed it once. We do not put up reminders mid-block.
And then the radar indicating speed signs, those are currently under consideration in other places in the town for installation. I would just say right now they're not under consideration for any residential streets. They're more on busier connector streets that are out there. Like I think we're recommended one for Casey Road. The traffic counts that are on the street, you're kind of in an in-between spot. You're too high for speed bumps and speed humps, but kind of too low to probably warrant putting in a radar indicator sign on that street, because there's a lot of other spots out there that the town would probably want to pursue first, where there's much higher traffic counts with higher speeds in here. The other thing that we can do is that the town did go through and do the traffic counts that were up there that Chris provided to us. We do have the indicators here as well that there are a good number of cars that are traveling over 10 miles over the speed limit. And the captain does have that information to him now as to when might be a good time during the course of the day to have an officer drive down the street, sit in a corner, sit someplace, and maybe catch some people and deter the speeders. It helps. Mm-hmm. Came home for lunch or dinner and had the car sit in the driveway for a little bit, and people definitely notice it. Yep. So the captain has that information, so we'd refer it over to the police as well through the counts that were done for potential increased enforcement if the officers are available. They kind of have the times now of they don't want to send and have an officer over in that area, probably, looking at that chart. Have someone over there at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, maybe. You start looking at the 8 o'clock, maybe. You get to those afternoon hours where it's a little bit higher. Probably you're going to be running into problems with accidents on the 290, other places that are going on where they're tied up during those peak hours. They could sit anywhere in the town and catch speeders at that time, but they're tied up at that point with other traffic incidents. But you look here and you see that peak hour coming in there at 11 o'clock. That might be something that captain tells an officer, between 10 and noon when you're driving around, that might be a spot to just patrol through every once in a while. So he has that information to take a look at.
Chairman, if I may, I just want to share a few thoughts on things that have been discussed thus far. On the topic of painting a parking lane and possibly restricting parking on one side of the street, I'm curious to hear what Highway officially comes back with, but as of right now, I'm on the fence on this. I think I'd probably lean towards voting no for something like this. I believe, honestly, with the volume of traffic and the speeds that are very similar actually to Westfield, a radar speed sign I do think would actually be appropriate for this street. That's my personal opinion. And I think, any increased enforcement that the police department might be able to provide on this street, I think would be beneficial. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, get in line for a radar speed sign. You want them all over the town. Paint's a lot cheaper.
Okay. So with that, two competing things here. Do we want to refer this over to engineering to see if Dan's idea is feasible? Yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be highway, you mean?
See if highway will do it.
Well, Chris, would that be, first we have to see if it's feasible for, by engineering to kind of draw it up.
Okay.
Right, Chris?
Yep.
And then once engineering draws that up, they can see if there's an appetite from highway to pursue it, would be step one. And then hopefully Chris can report back to us at the April meeting, if that's possible.
So put it on hold.
So the board's in favor of that. Sure. And then regarding the radar sign mid-block, is there support from this board to pursue it if funding was available as another identified area?
I'm not in support of that. I think we have other streets in the town with bigger issues. And if you put it here, those other, I'm worried about sign overload. If it's appropriate here, then those other streets, it would be appropriate there, and then it loses its effectiveness.
37 is high, though, just in my 37 miles per hour. It's higher than we normally see on the street. So that was just my thought process on it. Obviously, I respect your opinion.
I agree kind of with both of you.
I think wait and see to see if it's
Yeah,
even.
I think the other one, my problem with the speeds, the radar enforcement sign is, where do you put it on the block that you're not gonna have, you're gonna have to find a resident that wants it in front of their house, with a flashing light in front of their house whenever a car goes down the street. That's, when you put it on the other streets, like a Casey, where you're not in front of a house, you can tuck it in someplace. To pursue it, the first obstacle is gonna be the challenge of where do you put it? So that's why I would hold on that one at this point.
I think.
It would be a sign, but there would have to be there'd have to be a hole put into the ground in front of their house to put a footer in for it. There'd have to be an electrical box put into there to be able to control it, or a big solar panel on top of it.
They're 15 feet tall. It's a rather significant structure.
Right, so it's much bigger than a street light in front of your house.
And there's a pair of them, one for each direction.
Right, you got one on each side of the street going, and then every time that car comes by, if it's 8 o'clock at night, like tonight, if it's in front of your house, the light goes off in front of your house, flashing the sign, the color at somebody driving down the street, potentially flashing through your house. So that becomes part of the concern with that in a residential neighborhood.
The one on Evans is right at the end of the plaza before the apartment complex.
Yep, so you kind of tuck them away where it's not in front of a person's house.
I live in the village, and I think the village officials are happy with the radar detectors they have. They think they're very effective.
And I would agree with that. That's why we're looking at them at different places in the town. It's just that residential street that I think is the concern with the house.
Yeah, this is a little small.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, we'll hold this item and wait to hear back from engineering and highway to see if Dan's option here is feasible. Okay? Yep, thank you. Thank you for attending and bringing it to us. Next item on the agenda is item number 3, Woodbury Drive Southern Curve, update curve warning signs. And Chris, this one is coming from, I believe, you in highway?
Came from highway.
Had this once before.
Well, so it was brought up by a highway employee who drove by that the curve advisory sign at this location is the old style. Forget the number. Yeah. So if you look in your package, I don't have this digitally, but it's the currently it's a W1-2 if we're looking at the ball bank study. For the new members on the board, what we do is we drive these curves at certain speeds, and there's a device that we put in the car. It's called a ball bank, and it actually measures degrees, and, it depends on how fast you're going and how far that ball banks. It'll dictate what advisory speed the curve should be posted at. So in this instance, anything per the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, anything under or equal to 30 miles per hour ball banked should be the right angle type of signage. We just want your concurrence that this is the way to go. After ball banking, we do see that it's advisory speed of 15. The way it was posted had 0 advisory speed. So that's not helpful. Probably a really old posting. So we would change this to a right angle as well as putting an advisory speed on there of 15. The backup's in your package. Just want your concurrence.
So this would just be a motion from us to refer to highway to replace the sign. So I'll make the motion to refer to highway to replace the sign on Woodbury to the correct curve advisory sign.
Sure.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Second by Maxwell. Any further conversation? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
So 6-0 to refer to highway for replacement of the sign. And then I think, Chris, from our brief conversation prior to the meeting, just wanted to point this out that there is belief that there are additional signs posted like this based on older guidelines, correct?
Yeah, if you guys drive by one and see it, you can bring it to my attention. Al, I just saw another one on Park Club that we should probably look at. So just something to keep in mind. Try to update them as we find them.
So if you see any that look wrong, let Chris, if you see a curve sign that looks wrong, point it out to Chris so he can get out with his banking test.
Yeah, and I won't
Check it out.
come to the board for every one. We'll probably do it administratively, but I'd just like to bring it up occasionally just so you guys are aware of it.
Okay, so that will close item number 3, and then we'll move to item number 4, Campus Drive and Campus Drive East. Let's have some fun, Chris.
Okay, Campus Drive runs off of Main Street, just west of Harlem, and it serves really the apartments and residential to the north. The area that we're looking at is immediately adjacent to Damon University, primarily student housing. Campus Drive East, as shown on the map, is a northbound one-way direction until you get to this intersection that I'm kind of highlighting with my cursor. Then it becomes two-way, and likewise, the Campus Drive on this stretch is one-way direction southbound until it hits our subject intersection of this evening's discussion, where somebody's asking for a stop sign, specifically for southbound. Where indicated on the map here, you are allowed to either go through or to turn onto Campus Drive East. If they were to continue on Campus Drive East at the same time and northbound vehicles headed that same direction, someone would have to yield. That is, I think, the intent of the request is to have that southbound movement stopped in order to better control the traffic. I do not have counts. And in terms of crashes, we had a side swipe up in this area unrelated to traffic control or, decision on who needs to yield at that intersection. So it was unrelated.
Is there a yield sign there now?
No, there's no signage. Campus Drive. And it is heavily parked. As everyone should know, who's been on the board for some time, parking is a premium in that location, so it's frequently parked on the west side by attendees of the university. I am done, Chairman.
It's a great parking spot where that person parked. Just park legally.
Wow.
There's no parking the other side of the sign. He's parked legally.
Yeah, but you can't legally park in an intersection, right, Captain?
Doesn't say that on the sign.
But
That sign's a little misleading.
what is going on with my computer here? Yep.
Google does not like that intersection. Nor do we.
White cars parked.
Based on that sign, it's pretty misleading because it appears that you can park in that spot.
Yeah, you guys could make a recommendation to wrap it around.
Yeah.
Or I think we could just do that. Perhaps, Al, I don't know if you'd be comfortable with doing it without town board resolution because it's in an intersection. You'd have to make that determination.
Is there a sign on the?
There's this one, but it points northerly.
Points in the other direction. There should be like another one behind that red car saying no parking.
Yeah, it
going
should,
that way.
it should be wrapped.
It should be wrapped, and then that one should be no parking with an arrow going both ways.
Okay.
Where the back of that red car is, there needs to be another sign that indicates no parking, like where the parking ends.
So do we need to put that?
I mean, it's already V&T law, so you don't, it's just us posting signs. You could make a recommendation to the highway department, I suppose.
Oh, you got the recommendation, right? Okay. So
think
thoughts
adding-
on stop sign, yield sign, any sign?
There was only one accident, totally unrelated.
Yes. I don't, I haven't done a count here, but I would suspect very little vehicles go that way, but I'm guessing.
So, looking at the drawing that was in there, I don't think you can put one stop sign in. I think that would actually make it less safe. I think you would need one, if you put one there, I think the person stopping there, if they are going to make that movement to go back up the other side, they're going to be making the assumption that the car on the other leg is stopping as well, that we're gonna have a request then to put a cross traffic doesn't stop, so I think you'd have to do two. I also think there's no accident history there, that sometimes confusion is a good thing, that makes everybody think that slow down. With no major accident history there for as long as that's been configured that way, I think adding a stop sign does more harm than good.
I agree.
Thoughts on yield signs through there? I think
No, I think it's fine as is.
is sign pollution potentially. No one's gonna pay attention to them anyway or see them around parked cars. So other than the parking on the bulb curve to be adjusted, any other comments, thoughts? So we will close this agenda item. With closing that agenda item, that closes the, well, no, we first, any other new business to be brought before the board?
The old business item.
I don't want to bring this up, Chris, so, but I feel that we have to. I know the street lights are a topic of consideration throughout the town. I've had a couple comments made to me about the new street lights on some of the busier streets, particularly like North Forest, that they're very bright and positioned in angles that can be kind of blinding at times with the new brightness. Is that something this board should take under consideration or advisement to review, or would this board rather not go there at this point? It's more,
I don't, even in the event that we did take it under consideration, I don't know what, how would that possibly be evaluated?
I mean,
Right.
some of them, when you look at the lights, the way the pole is positioned, and they're leaning a little bit, the light is actually with the new configuration of the light. Instead of the lights being this, they're pointed in this direction, or they're tilted. So as you're going down the roads, it's almost like as they're installing them, they're not, I don't know if it's just the bulb that's being replaced, if it's the whole head, that they're not taking into consideration that position as they're installing it. They're just popping the bulb in, but the signal pole, post, whatever isn't aligned, and then you're driving down the road and boom, there's a light in your face, and they're significantly brighter than they used to be. I don't know, Chris, if that can just be pointed out to the installer to take a look at some of
If you have
that.
exact locations on where that's occurring, there are ways to change the bulb angle, not only the tilt, but also, I don't know what the word is, how it's rotated on the arm. They're instructed to install it at 0 degrees. There is kind of like an adjustment type mechanism in there that allows it to change. So if you've got one, point it out. If it's really bugging you, you can just send me an email. Try to get a poll number.
Okay. Like, I'm not opposed or in opposition of the lights going in. They make the streets a little bit brighter and help. It's just some of the angling and positioning that seems a little weird. So, okay. Any other new business? Open it up to, close the new business section then and open it up to old business.
So Helene, you were saying something about last agenda item that was on your mind?
I think that was, Helene, did you have a,
Helene,
Sorry.
was there something you wanted to bring up under old business?
Yeah, just that,
Which item was it? What intersection, what?
the roundabout?
The roundabout, okay, thank you. No problem. The roundabout item?
yeah, the roundabout.
Okay.
Exactly.
Lynette.
Yeah, it's just the fact that that one, so that her driveway is so close to traffic, you know, to, I mean, it might not be an issue for her, the current resident, when she sold her house or something like that, it'd be an issue for other people. I just, when I went home, I kind of, you know, said to myself, boy, you should have raised that. If you bring this back before the crosswalk, you're not interfering with her driveway. And you don't have to change that street. But I don't think it belongs where it's put.
So you have two options there. The option as shown is the proper way to install the splitter island. There's very little flexibility on where to put that island. You couldn't just move it south. You know, there's specific offsets that have to be achieved. The other option is not to do that specific splitter island and do the other three. You know, like the resident said, there is concurrence that that resident doesn't object to it now, and I would suspect the person who buys it sees the island prior to purchase, and they're buying in existing condition. But those are really your two options: to do nothing or as shown.
So is the concern the splitter island? Or is your concern the splitter island, or is it the,
So my concern is, I'm happy the resident's okay with it, but if she goes to sell her house,
is it here that you're concerned about, or is it this that you're concerned about?
you know, I'd like to see this starting here.
Right, okay, I thought you were concerned about here as well. Yeah, you can't, like Chris is saying, you can't move it back.
Can't move it back. Yeah, that was my thought. That's what I saw in my head. But you can have that with the driveway there like that? I'm kind of surprised. Like,
You still have a full lane of traffic. The person would be able to back out of their driveway straight into the circle. So there's enough room there for the person to back out straight into the circle and then be able to drive around the circle if they were, because it's a one-way circle going around. And they would have a straight shoot into their driveway coming around. I don't necessarily see an issue with it. That was the... Now, if my driveway was on a different, just because of the leg of where that is in the circle, like if I was in a different spot on the circle, it might be a problem. Just thinking the traffic direction going around the circle, you can back out straight. There's enough room to back out straight right into the circle. Any other comments would have? My thought is, and everybody else is welcome to speak, I would rather have it there than not there because of the driveway. Any other comments?
Just an update while we're on this subject. I have met with the highway superintendent specific to this item. He has received a memo with your recommendation. It is under consideration. I believe last week they did some additional traffic counts directly at the island to get a better understanding of volume and speeds. We only looked at the approaches. They wanted to see something more, within that circle. And that's all I have to report unless, Al, you have anything? Nope.
We should just make note of it for this board, hopefully in the future, as future development happens, that as these circles are designed in residential neighborhoods and go in, that should be the norm for the splitters to be in there on the developer when they build it. But you see the problems that it creates when they're not there.
Oh, yeah, no. I like having it in because we can see if it works. Right? It's the same as pretty much any other island that we want.
We were provided video by the resident, since we're on the subject.
Was that sent to Modern by chance?
Extreme example.
Okay. Any other old business?
I do have one. I hope it's quick. This board has previously recommended putting in ped heads and crosswalks at Eggert, the intersection of Eggert, Rosedale, and Sweet Home. And I'm thinking with spring coming up, the ped heads obviously would be very expensive, but I'm thinking with spring coming up, if this board could make a recommendation that we get a permit from the county to just put in the crosswalks, like paint the crosswalk lines at that intersection, I think it would be worthwhile as a sort of interim until we eventually get funding for that intersection. I think that would be a worthwhile interim thing to do. Yeah, that intersection there.
I'll have to review the minutes to see what the previous recommendation is, but maybe this could be lumped in with the other project of Klein and North Forest to make a larger, two location type of improvement for pedestrians.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, honestly, even just the crosswalks, paint, I think here would help because it already has the 480 ramps. I just think it's a low-hanging fruit.
Okay. Cindy, can we pull that tomorrow? Thanks.
Any other old business? None being heard, we'll thank our liaisons for their attendance this evening and move on to our new liaison from planning. New old liaison from planning. And And move on to site plans. I knew you weren't gone.
Oh, the roundabout? What I remember is, let's use the mile vision data to then look to see if the warrants are met. And I think I reached out to you and said, hey, I'm not good at that. And then you gave me guidance on how to do it. And that's where we left it. I didn't do any follow-up. Send it to the county. I don't remember. Okay. Okay, I don't remember, yeah. It's Sweet Home and Amherst.
I could be confusing that.
That one's ours, and we do have a roundabout concept and a cost estimate, and it's in the op zone. Probably won't be funded for some time. All right, hey, Scott. So we'll pull it up on the screen and let him talk first, and then we'll pull out the plans. But keep him. I think so. Yeah. I think the petitioner provided me a copy.
So this is 5105, 5177 Sheridan Drive, our proposed restaurant coffee shop.
So I've got a 2/20/24.
That's the correct, yep, that's the correct one.
So this board has seen this in the past, so they are familiar with it, but I am going to have the aerial ready. And just a reminder, everyone is being recorded. The meeting still is streaming, and Chairman, you want to pass it over to the petitioner?
Floor is yours.
Hello again, Nick Dalp from Miskolo Development. Again, as Chris said, you guys have seen this plan in the past. Since then, we had comments back from New York State DOT and Erie County. The result of immense conversations and emails is this plan. So one of the comments and feedback that we got back from New York State DOT is having the exit as far east on the site as possible, and then having the entrance in the middle of the site here, and having the two of them separated, mainly so if cars are leaving this way and cars are queuing, it gives a little extra distance there. The other thing that Erie County had kind of mandated to us is a right-in, right-out only. So with that, again, we've run this plan through the planning department, both tenants, and then both of those agencies. And so we're, kind of bound by at least the things that New York State and the county have provided us. And I think with that, we have the best plan that we can possibly provide. So
Nick, I just want to give a little more information related to the right-in, right-out.
yeah, absolutely.
With the justification by the county, given that if a single car is queued in the southbound direction to turn left in, and there is stacking present in the northbound direction, that would cause quite an ordeal with vehicles backing up into the Sheridan Drive intersection. Like Nick mentioned, it was kind of a non-starter. They were even, their traffic engineer came back and said a full axis is acceptable. They weren't having it. So this is where we ended up. Did I fill it? Is there any more to add to that? Okay.
No, again, we'd prefer the full access, but yeah, that was a non-starter for us, or for them, unfortunately.
You have no way for a car to get out of this site and head south to the village. And I think
No.
that's limited.
You do. You turn left here and you turn left here.
What a mess that is.
I'm just telling you, you have an option.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's not a good option.
No, it's better to go right and then go down to Evans. That's
Right.
what I would do. I mean, if the state or the town or the county
You know, I'm on your side. You're trying to get a tenant here and sell coffee and tacos. And I think people can get into this site, but if they can't get out and go to the village, I don't think this thing works.
I would say at this point, it's out of this board's control. Erie County controls Mill Street, and that's the curb cut that they're permitting and allowing.
Yeah,
We're
we'd
not-
we'd
we're
prefer
not
the
in-
full
we're-
access
this board is
personally,
not
but
in favor of it, you're
yeah.
not in favor of it, but Erie County ultimately owns the road and gives you the permit for the curb cut, and that's what they're allowing you to do.
Yeah.
So that's everybody's hands are tied on that one.
Yep.
Or I should say everybody's hands in this room is tied on that one.
Correct.
We're gonna have a situation like we had over at the, how we used to have at the post office. The right turn ends up being, right turn only ends up being also left.
Well, hopefully it's a big enough pork chop. I also think you'll have people going the wrong way on that driveway, on the inbound way in. So that challenge can be fought after it's built. Any other comments on the plan for the petitioner?
I would just make sure that the signage for these curb cuts are very clear. Do not enter for the east one, and they do not enter going northbound internal on the west one.
Yeah, that's, yeah, we have I think it's enter only here, and then the do not exit here, and then on the opposite side, same thing, do not enter.
So you may want to consider double posting it.
Okay.
I like the only, let's see what you have here. Do not enter, yeah, see how you double posted it here?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? I missed it?
No, it's just on the other C-17s. They should be on the kind of the other end where
Yeah, it
14,
should
15
be,
are.
it should be here. See the 14? There should be a 14 here.
There and there.
I
We
know
can
you
have
got a
that.
lot of stuff going on there, but
What is 17?
17 is probably an enter.
Enter only.
Are they necessary?
What? Am I got the wrong symbology? Oh, there it is. It's a triangle. Enter only. And 14 is do not enter. So double post the do not enter internally.
Okay.
Why do you need the double posted enter only?
You don't?
The only people seeing it are going to be entering.
Maybe to give it more awareness to enter here versus here.
So when they're pulling in, they see the sign of enter only and they'll remember after they go through the drive-through, maybe?
What's that, like, if it was more of like a little monument pedestal sign?
In which case it would have to be on their property.
So it would be back.
A lot larger than the do not enter.
Yeah.
And when you put them in, make sure that they're like not the same height that the Delta Sonic ones are, because I can't see out of them. That they're totally block the sight distance. It's like right at eye level.
Which one, is that the one on Transit Road?
No, the one on Niagara Falls and Maple,
Okay.
those.
Got it.
No, it's a fancy one. It's closed, no, the one is.
And then, Nick, an earlier version of this that I saw had this enter only curb cut choked down a little bit, and it seemed like you didn't have the turning radiuses to allow turns. Did this widen after you put on the turning radiuses, do you know?
No, the width stayed the same. It's based on getting a truck to maneuver in for deliveries, and then the radiuses are based on DOT's comments.
Is there any flexibility of narrowing that 19?
If the 19 narrows, the way that this tenant receives deliveries is this truck pulls in this way, so it wouldn't be able to make that maneuver.
No, yeah, I just wanted to ask it. I
Yep.
try to do as much as we can to try to
Yeah, choke that
eliminate,
down.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the unwanted out movements, but if you can't, you can't.
Yep.
So just curious, as you made that comment of where that truck makes its delivery in that building. The truck currently delivers to the Mighty Taco in front of the building?
Yeah, so it's not the way that the configuration works, so the tenant planned on this truck coming in and then pulling in front of here. Again, most deliveries are off hours.
So they do key drops overnight?
I don't know.
They're not while the restaurant is
Correct.
up and running during the day where there's vehicular traffic?
That's correct.
No, I just,
Yeah.
I'm in food service, so I know there's the key drop night delivery or there's day delivery depending on the restaurant.
Yeah,
Just- if it's key drop overnight, I'm not really concerned about it, but if it's
I know it's definitely,
delivering at 10 o'clock in the morning when they make a delivery, now all of a sudden the only way out is to get around that truck.
Correct.
That truck is blocking the access road.
correct. It's definitely off hours from their operation.
Okay. Then my other request is, and perhaps you've heard this from other agencies or departments, but when the development does occur at these two petitioner-owned sites, that this curb cut be removed and this drive be extended southerly to then make an access point that is full access on Mill Street. Have you guys considered that, had that discussion, have that in the future works?
So we've considered it. Again, at this time, there's no plans to develop those two residential properties into anything. So
Would you object to having a planning board resolution to saying that that's a requirement when that's developed in the future?
we wouldn't love it, just because it would limit if there was ever anything to happen there. Again, the plan that we had shown as, again, it was us taking a stab at it, did show kind of the multi-use up front. I think if that was to happen, that would end up pushing it back towards the site, and then you'd have kind of a reconfiguration. Again, we're never, I say, fans of kind of limiting future development for what we do. It just kind of cuts down our flexibility, but
Right.
We understand your position.
Okay. I think that's the best way to correct this situation that was already previously discussed.
Mm-hmm.
In the future, just if anything develops on those other two pieces, just shift south.
Yeah, but then you guys always tell us this is a different parcel and we can't make changes on, I'd rather have it memorialized in this. Yes, exactly.
And I think actually DOT did make some comment that
It would have been Erie County.
you know, want somebody's in the future for those other parcels as well, that curb cut goes away and goes south.
Last thing I'll point out is you've got a couple skewed crosswalks, not desirable, but I understand you're trying to maximize parking. Particularly if those go unmaintained in the future, you know, it's just difficult for pedestrians to access. But otherwise, I don't mind ultimate resolution you came up with the county and the state.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
None for me.
So is this then,
Board members, do you want to get around the table with the site plan here, or have you seen enough, or?
I'm good.
Okay, Max, Greg, Dan, you good? Okay, so this will be approved with conditions, those ones that I've already mentioned. And there you go.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
I can tell you.
losing are down.
I don't think they're losing any. Oh, no, these ones down.
Yeah, the two that are right.
There are none there. Yeah, those two are going away. These are not, they don't have any there at all.
this way or that way.
I don't think the Mighty Taco cut through will be as prevalent because it's not a straight shot and that's employee parking. From the Taco.
Motion to adjourn by Maxwell, second by Jennifer. All in favor? Aye.